spot. So good afternoon and welcome to the Identity and Innovation Summit. My name is Jennifer Phillips and I will be providing the tech support during this lunch session. And I work for the Illinois State University Center for Specialized Professional Support. So this lunch session is going to be focused on effective practice model sharing. Just a couple housekeeping items before we get started with our presenter. Everyone that's on the line is currently muted, but you do have the ability to unmute or mute yourself, especially with this being a smaller lunchtime session and less formal. We do ask that you remain muted unless you're speaking to just reduce the background noise. And in addition, please feel free to post questions in the chat and we'll address those throughout the time together. I'm guessing that Kimberly may also just open the floor to talking with such a smaller group. I did want to mention that we are using closed captioning. So if you need closed captioning today, it is enabled and it should be, I think you have to click it on your side with the three little ellipses that says more if you are interested in having the closed captioning appear on your screen. So the session will be recorded and you can locate those recordings on the Illinois Workforce Academy website, probably posted by tomorrow. And I did put that link in the chat. And so without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Kimberly Mercer Schleider. She is the director of the Illinois Council on Developmental Disabilities. Welcome, Kimberly.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. And I know that this is lunchtime. And if your cameras are off because you're eating, I completely understand in this Zoom world. You know, I get it. I often have to turn off my camera to grab some food. If you're not eating and you would like to join face-to-face, I'd love to have you. I would also want to orient you to a couple things that make this kind of meeting format a little bit more fun. Down at the bottom, you can see some reactions. If at any point we're going through some things and you want to throw out some emojis, let us know how we're doing, things that you find maybe funny. I'm really hoping that we don't get too many, you know, like we don't want any of these today. Hoping that we can stick with mostly, you know, these, but if you do have one of those, you know, that's okay too. But I wanted to highlight the emoji section, and if anybody wanted to throw one up occasionally, just to let me know that you're here, that would be helpful. And then we do have a really small group. And so I actually wouldn't mind knowing a little bit more about who I'm talking to before I jump into some of the content that I have for today. This is supposed to be an open dialogue, so I don't want to just be the only one speaking out at you today. So if you don't mind, I'm going to I can call on you based on how I see you on my screen so that everybody's not talking over each other. I would just love to hear where you're from and what made you join this session today. And so I'm going to start with Susan and see if Susan's with us. And if you are on mute, you can unmute yourself to join in. All right, let's go to Renee.
Yes, I am joining because I'm looking for, I was actually looking for the one lady from U of I, Carolyn Jorgensen, and I couldn't figure out how to get out of your meeting. So I'm very sorry.
That's okay. No, I'm good. Hey, let's get you where you need to be. Jennifer, do you have any advice for Renee?
Yeah, if you stay on for just 2 seconds, Renee, I'm going to put another, actually, if you go to the link that I put in the chat for the Illinois Workforce Academy, and then click on, let's see, I'm trying to get you in the right place, on the Identity and Innovation Summit. If you click on the agenda here, if you hang on for 1 second, I'm going to give you like the super direct link so you don't have to be clicking all over the place. Okay, can you remind me which one you were looking for?
Carolyn Jorgensen, she does the VR counseling for U of I.
I'm copying the link address and I'm putting it in the chat right now.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I didn't
That's
want to be
okay, Renee. Let's get you where you need to be.
Exactly.
It's okay.
Yep.
Have a great day. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks. All right. So go ahead. Sorry, Jennifer.
No, I'm good. It's the floor is
Okay.
yours.
Awesome. All right. Tracy Williams.
Good afternoon. I'm a vocational rehab counselor in Southern Illinois, Belleville, Fairview Heights area. And I work with STEP, secondary STEP and transition students,
awesome.
as well as I have adult clients as well.
Wonderful.
So,
Tracy, welcome.
thank you. Welcome. Thank you.
And then Lucas Robinson. Hi.
Hi, everybody. Again, I'm Lucas Robinson. I'm from the Knox County Workforce Office. I'm a career and employment specialist. And I work with, adult clients, but have primarily worked with youth and alternative,
Great. Thanks for joining, Lucas. Nice to see you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you.
Let's go to Dion.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dion Smith, Workforce Solutions Specialist with Easter Seals. We administer the Senior Community Service Employment Program, which is a program that works with individuals 55 years of age. And this program is in every state in the United States. It's funded by the Department of Labor. And just with Easter Seals, we work with individuals from all walks of life and different circumstances. Mm-hmm. And when I joined this topic, I was familiar with a lot of other topics. This one seemed very interesting to me. So.
Awesome. Yeah, well, I'm happy to have you. Thanks for coming. Brandon. Maybe Brandon is on mute.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Sorry. I think I joined a minute or two late, but I'm Brandon Bax. I'm a program administrator for the Illinois Youth Investment Program, which is a DHS, Department of Human Services state grant for at-risk youth ages 16 to 24.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us today. Susan, we can come back to you if you're available. Maybe you're off mute.
Yeah, this is Sue Anzalone. I'm a rehabilitation counselor with the Aurora office for Office of Rehabilitation.
Awesome, Sue. Thanks for coming. And then I see we have Casey Burke, which, sorry to ruin the surprise, everybody, but Casey and I know each other pretty well. But hi, Casey.
Hi, Kim, and hello, everybody. I'm the Supported Employment Administrator for the Division of Developmental Disabilities in Illinois.
Awesome. So we may or may not continue to get more folks kind of joining in here. We'll see. I did see one more person join us, and then we can jump into the presentation. But I would like to say hi to Alexander. Hello. We're in this little small, group that I'm hoping that we have some interaction. Alex, would you mind telling us where you're from?
I am from the Illinois Division of Rehabilitation Services, and I work out of the Rock Island office. And I guess I could turn on my camera here. All right, here I am.
Hi, nice to see you. Thanks for coming. So I was telling everybody before you joined, Alex, that I completely understand that if you have to have your cameras off because this is lunchtime and you're eating and you don't want to show us eating like a giant taco or something, I completely understand. That is okay with me. But if you did want to join with your camera, that's fine too. And then I also wanted to highlight that, we've got these cool emoji options here, which always make things more fun. So if you hear anything that you'd like to, emphasize with a little emoji, I'm all about that here today, this afternoon. So I'm excited to have everybody here. My name is Kim Mercer schleider. I am the director of the Illinois Council on Developmental Disabilities. We've been actively supporting Director Patrick at Division of Rehab in throwing and coordinating this event today. And we're just excited that we were able to get some time just to tell folks that we're interested a little bit more about us. And this is going to go by fast. We're done at 1. And right now it's 12:25. And the way that this is supposed to be set up is that we're supposed to have some open dialogue and some questions and some back and forth. But before we do that, I need to tell you, why I'm here, why the council's here, and then a little bit about the project that I wanted to talk with all of you about today. So I am going to share my screen just because I have some slides to go with. And let's see. All right. We're going to start here just for a second so that I can tell you. And I hope everybody can see my screen. And now I've lost view of you. So if you're going to shoot me emojis to tell me that you can see my screen, I'm not going to see them anymore. I'm sorry. But you can also enter things into the chat. And we also have some tech support here as well in Jennifer. So Jennifer, if you're seeing something that I'm missing in the chat, please don't hesitate to stop me and let me know. This is open dialogue, everybody. So I have a little bit of a presentation, but if you have questions or you want to throw anything out, please let me know. So like I said, I'm the director of the Illinois Council on Developmental Disabilities. We, in the same way, Dion, you mentioned that the program that you work for is federally funded and is in every state and territory. Same with DD councils. Developmental disabilities councils are 100%, or at least in Illinois, we are 100% federally funded. We are in every state and territory across the country. There's a council in every state and territory. And the reason why we're here is through a federal law called the Developmental Disabilities Bill of Rights Act. And that mandates that every state and territory has a DD council, which is us. I'm going to tell you more about us. Has a university center on research excellence in developmental disabilities issues, which in Illinois is the University of Illinois Chicago Department of Disability and Human Development. And then in every state and territory, because of this federal law, there has to be a protection and advocacy unit. And in the state of Illinois, that's Equip for Equality. And so the three of us are funded from the same place within the federal government. The DD Council in Illinois is the only one of those entities that's also a state agency. So we're a standalone state agency. My email address ends in illinois.gov, of like a lot of other, many of you here joining us today. We are state of Illinois employees. And we have our own agency. Like I said, we're 100% federally funded. And we're here to basically, we're charged with identifying the most pressing needs of people with developmental disabilities. And we're also here to implement and support the Developmental Disabilities Bill of Rights Act, which really is foundational in that the theme of the federal law and the spirit of the federal law is that every single person with a developmental disability should have the rights and access to a life just like any other. And that means living in the community with the support that they need, where they want to live and on their terms, deciding what they want to do with their day. Particularly, obviously, that means employment, and employment is such a huge part of what we do. It's not just employment, though. We work on policy changes. We work on projects like the one I'm about to tell you about. And we're really here to try to create the systems change that are needed to give access to people. Before I started as the director of the DD Council, I have experience. I know one of you mentioned that you work with a STEP program in your area. So I actually ran the transition programming for all of Chicago public schools, and we had a really big STEP contract. So I'm really familiar with how STEP works to support folks in transitioning out of high school and leaving high school and hopefully entering into competitive integrated employment. Go ahead.
The friendly detectives are sitting outside my window. They had lunch with the boys, and something happening out there. Oh, ain't nothing happening. Oh, shoot.
Okay. I think we're on mute. All right, sorry. Okay. Anyway, back to I've worked with students. I started off as a special education teacher. I've worked in high schools. I've worked in adult services. I've worked in housing. I've worked in employment supports. I've done a lot of different things in the field of developmental disabilities. And so it's just really exciting to have an opportunity to continue to build on that with the council. I think the most important part about me that I want to be sure to share is that I am a family member of a person with a developmental disability. And I think that that's really helped to define my career choice and why I'm into and care about the work that we all do. So anyway, a little bit about me. But I told you about the DD Council, how we are federally funded. We use our federal funds, and this is actually a picture of our, a dated picture, a pre-COVID picture of our council members. We've had some of them transition off, and we've had some new members since we've actually been able to all be in the same room and get our picture taken together, which I'm really hoping is sometime soon. It's a wonderful group of people. The council members are governor appointed. And we also then have mandated state agency representation as well. And so these following state agencies are also a part of our council. And the what our council does is I serve them, basically. We get our federal funds, and then we, like I said, we're charged with trying to figure out the most pressing issues for people with developmental disabilities in the state of Illinois. And then we try to figure out how we can impact that with our federal dollars. And so our council members really help us define where our dollars are going to go. So our money comes in from the federal government, a small piece of that goes to pay our staff, and then the rest is turned out to the state of Illinois via grant projects. And so some people might be familiar with the council because of the grant projects that we have, that we put out throughout the state.
Kimberly, this is Jen. Did you want, just for sort of the record quality, do you want to put it into slideshow mode? Right now we're seeing, thanks.
And the reason why is because I was hoping that I could just get rid of this one and go to the other one. So we're actually done with this part. So, all right. So hopefully this is okay, because this is actually a PDF, and I think the best I can do here. There we go. So this is the project that I want to talk to you all about. I first want to double check in the chat, Jennifer, if I am missing anything.
No questions yet, and I threw your website and the Bill of Rights up for anyone who's interested.
And Brandon, I wish that you were eating some tacos too. That would be lovely. All right. So I want to talk to you about this project. So I told you that the council is federally funded. I told you that we get our federal funds and we try to figure out how we can invest in different projects across the state. Thank you for including my website, Jennifer, the council's website. You will see, if you're clicking in throughout there, you'll see a list of all of the current projects that we have. We also have an archive of our past projects as well. And so I'm only going to focus on one today, but we have currently 21 separate projects going, I believe, right now. We have several projects related to employment and increasing access to employment for people with developmental disabilities. We have investments regarding provider training for competitive integrated employment. We have projects that are focusing on financial wellness and training for people with developmental disabilities so that they know what to do with their hard-earned money and how they can save it while also protecting some benefits that are vital to their support in the community. So I can't get into all of those today because we are focusing on the LGBTQ community today with Proud and Included. And this is a project that we did that started back in 2017. We put out a request to the state of Illinois, and we said, hey, we want to support marginalized communities in the state of Illinois, people with developmental disabilities, to have access to a life like any other, just like the rest of us. And you, Illinois, tell us what is needed. Tell us what we need to invest in order to make make things more accessible and equal for people. And one of the proposals that we got back was for this project specifically, Proud and Included. They were really detailing to us the need, and I think the oversight sometimes, of really looking at people with developmental disabilities as people that have potentially an LGBTQ identification. And it's not something that's always covered in regular opportunities for people with developmental disabilities. We even see, I don't have the specific data that shows this, unfortunately, because it's really difficult to track. But even as we're thinking through all of the experiences that we have had throughout our lives, good and bad, in order to be able to really identify who we are, who we love, and the communities that we want to belong in. Sometimes those access points are not provided to people with developmental disabilities in the same way. A lot of the things that we learn on our own through social events and abilities to hang out with different kinds of people and hop in a cab in the city and go see something, or jump on a train and go experience something new. Even down to just having the ability to, get online and check out, resources and social media and things like that. These are opportunities and things that I think we take for granted sometimes when we don't think about how the access to people with developmental disabilities is for those same exact things. And so this group wrote us back and said, hey, we would love to use some of your funding in order to create a program for people with developmental disabilities who identify as LGBTQ, and provide an opportunity for the following things. The Proud and Included project is an investment that was established to open Chicago's LGBTQ community to individuals with developmental disabilities who also identify as LGBTQ. Entities and groups in the LGBTQ community were trained on cultural competency and including people with DD who identify as LGBTQ, and individuals with developmental disabilities who identify as LGBTQ to participate in trainings to help them be able to speak up more for themselves. And the pictures that we have posted here today are pictures from some of our actual events. I believe the picture on the top here is at a bar on Halsted Street in Chicago, where we hosted an event. And then also then you'll see our Proud and Included stickers on the back of this person's wheelchair, who were also representing Proud and Included at a festival in Chicago that summer that we were investing in this project. So just a little bit about it, and we'll open it up for conversation. Proud and Included supported 128 people with developmental disabilities in the city of Chicago who participated in the activities. 113 people attended self-advocacy meetings monthly, and 156 people were known to the project as allies. So that means an ally is somebody that participated in some way, did not necessarily identify as LGBTQ, but were participating as friends and supporters. So we also had project ambassadors, where we supported them in an extra way in order for them to be able to present publicly about some of the work that we were trying to do. We broke down this project into 4 categories. So the outreach project was to let people know that we were out here and trying to run this project. The second was around education and monthly meetings to get people, educated to the topic, but then also have an opportunity to create relationships there. We did self-advocacy training, and then we educated other LGBTQ organizations in their leadership on the value of inclusivity for people with developmental disabilities in their programming. We really had great progress with the Center on Halsted, which is a organization in Chicago that is sort of like a like a community hub for people that are LGBTQ in the city. They have many different opportunities. They run, I think there's a medical clinic, but then also social opportunities. There's a sports complex. I think it's attached to a Whole Foods on top of everything else. So there's a lot. It's an excellent hub of activity in that specific building, if anybody's familiar with it. And it's a wonderful place to start to think about the inclusion of people with developmental disabilities right there in the thick of it in a typically LGBTQ, historically LGBTQ neighborhood in Chicago. So we collaborated with two different entities to bring some training to people, which was really a self-advocacy training is really about probably all the things that you guys do with the people that you work with on a regular basis. How do you talk about yourself? How do you present yourself? Particularly when you're thinking about the employment bend. I know that many of you probably work very hard at supporting either youth or adults with disabilities to be able to present themselves and talk about what they want and how, to stand up for themselves in some situations, but also make sure really clear what you like and what you don't like in order to, make employment settings more inclusive or, make people more successful at their work. It's the same thing here, same concept. We really honed in on making sure that we were training people on how to present themselves. We also then did a specific piece about wanting to make sure that we were making participants familiar with the north side of Chicago LGBTQ community, initially by simply walking around, checking out the businesses, introducing themselves. Outreach led to many opportunities to join other groups or entities at various street fairs, invited to be in booths at events, Pride Month activities, including the parade, which we did participate in. And one event in which Proud and Included
Sorry
was
about
invited.
that, Kimberly. Someone else just wanted to join, and I just muted them. Yeah.
Okay, sure. Wonderful. Thank you, Jennifer. And then one event that we participated in specifically was a rotations dance party with 3 other LGBTQ organizations, which was super fun. So we held meet and mingle events at the center on Halsted. And we then at that point, the folks that were trained as ambassadors then had an opportunity to provide presentations to local businesses about the efforts of Proud and Included and the work that they were trying to do. And I don't want to spend too much time here, but I think it's important that we talk a little bit about the barriers about this kind of effort and what we experience, because I think these barriers that I'm going to highlight are probably the same kinds of barriers that you experience with the people that you're working with and trying to get employment. There were a lot of logistical issues, which I know when we're all working in the developmental disabilities field or the field of disabilities or with youth, with guardians, et cetera, there's a lot of logistical hurdles that we have to overcome in order to be able to ensure access. So one of the things that we really ran into was that it was difficult for some people to participate in the project because of a fear and hesitation from either their guardians or the people that support them. When we were engaging with some of these individuals, it was for many of them the very first time that anybody had specifically reached out to them because of their identification of being LGBTQ. These are people that were very used to being, identified as having a disability, but nobody ever really talked to them about, their feelings of who they're attracted to and, what kind of communities they wanted to belong to. And so there was a lot of fear and hesitation, particularly from some parents and guardians as well, that we're a little bit nervous about allowing the participation and allowing the individuals under their guardianship to kind of explore this parts of themselves. So we had to do a lot of education, but then also we had to also think about, what kind of a lesson learned is what kind of ramp up time do we need for a project like this to give it an opportunity to be more successful from the beginning, and having some more education and ramp up time to sort of alleviate some of that fear and hesitation. no one here today, I'm sure, will be surprised that one of the big issues that we encountered was also community access and transportation. Transportation is a huge related barrier sometimes for people with developmental disabilities. As many of you probably know, when you're trying to organize getting people to, different opportunities throughout the day, employment at different times, et cetera. It can really, transportation is one of the biggest issues if you're not somebody that drives on your own. Or this project was based in Chicago, so there was a lot of public transportation options, Uber, Lyft, those kinds of things set up, but there's many pockets in our state that don't have that level of like readily accessible transportation. Communication access was also an issue. This was, a lot of people didn't actually have their own cell phones or the ability to communicate or participate in things completely on their own. And so that was a big barrier. And one thing that we've learned, and particularly because of COVID, the one thing that we've learned is that communication access and technology access is 100% vital to being able to interact in today's world, particularly after, well, can't say after COVID, we're not after COVID yet, but particularly COVID taught us really that access to technology is absolutely essential to people's participation. Jennifer, I see you have your hand up. Is that, do you have a question?
Sorry, I don't, sorry.
Oh, that's okay. I just wanted to make sure
I
that
was testing it, sorry.
That's okay. I wanted to make sure I wasn't missing anything.
Yeah, thank you.
No problem. So one of the things also, though, we had some barriers, but we had some wonderful things that we learned. We really noticed a huge increase in people's reported self-confidence and the ability to talk about themselves and their identity as LGBTQ. And so that was exciting. We also then met really wonderful emerging leaders. We still stay in touch with many of the participants that participated in this project, and have really loved watching them grow throughout the years and become more active participants in their communities. So I think I'm going to stop there and just kind of open it up at this point to see. We have about 15 minutes left, and I can get into some of the lessons learned from this, but I think I'm gonna stop here. And
I'd just like to remind everybody that everyone's on mute for the sound quality, but you have the ability to unmute yourselves. Kimberly, there are no questions right now in the chat, but this is such a small space. Maybe people would feel comfortable just unmuting and sharing a question.
Yeah. I'm happy to host questions on the project, some of the lessons learned. I'm also happy to chat about the council and some of the work that we do as well.
Kimberly, while people are thinking about their questions, did you want to tick off a couple of the lessons learned before we?
Sure.
Yep.
Yeah, no problem. So we'll go back to, I think several of the lessons learned. One of the things that we learned, and this might also translate into some of the work that you all do on a regular basis, is that we learned that significant, as much as we want to ensure that we are treating people with developmental disabilities just like everybody else, we learned that there needed to be some more significant ramp up with the education component before we started this project. That we think that we would have had more people participating from the beginning if we were able to sort of talk to some of the families involved to help understand a little bit more about their hesitancy. And then it also really taught us too about sometimes the disconnect, which maybe there's many people on this call that can relate to this in the work that you do, but the disconnect sometimes between what an individual wants and then what the people that are around them making the decisions for them and what they want. And who is the most important person in that scenario? Obviously, it's the person with a developmental disability. And I think we get so caught up in that. That was something that we learned, that we really were just kind of frustrated by some of the guardians really putting their foot down, saying that they couldn't, their son or daughter or the person that they have guardianship over couldn't participate in this. And we see it in a lot of other ways, not just around this topic. Some of you might have encountered that with employment options for people, that it might be a great job that somebody really wants to do, but there's somebody stepping in that thinks that they know more or better for this person and provide a barrier for that participation. So a lesson learned is kind of ramping up that, and maybe we can open that up here just to see if anybody shares any of that experience or how you've overcome that in the work that you do. Any stories to share or anything like that related to having to help somebody use their voice and find their way? Not everybody at once. All right. Let's go to a different topic then. Another way that we, a lesson that we learned is that I think one of the things that I think is important, oops, hold on one second. One of the things that we learned that is important, obviously, then is needing to really figure out how to tackle leadership skills, and that community integration, employment, et cetera, is really contingent a lot on people's drive to want to participate. So I think leadership skills and leadership attainment and trying to teach people leadership skills is one of the most important things that we learned here, because it's not just leadership skills in advocating for yourself socially. Clearly, obviously, I think based on what I learned about the work that some of you do, leadership skills are incredibly important in employment too. So is there any discussion around teaching leadership skills to people that you'd like to hone in on? We have about 8 minutes left and I've talked the whole time. All right, Lucas is just soaking it in. We are covering a lot of territory. We've been everywhere. Community integration, we've been into guardianship, we've been into LGBTQ, we've been into a lot of things. Totally understand.
Kimberly, I know this is Jennifer. I know I'm on the tech side. I'm not even up on the board, but I think I mentioned in the chat, I have a 17-year-old, almost 18-year-old autistic son who's in the STEP program, and everything that you've been talking about resonates for me as a parent in terms of leadership and self-advocacy and self-understanding and self-confidence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So one of the things that I wanted to, I think like resonating off of that is, I think one of the things that when we actually focused in and talked to people about, like I said, for many people in this project, it was the very first time that they have been actually encouraged to explore the social opportunities that are directly related to identifying as LGBTQ. And that to me was like one of the biggest eye-opening pieces of that, because helping people feel more secure in that identification opened them up across the board to so many other confidence building opportunities. And so I think that's one of the pieces that I'd really love for everybody to walk away with today, particularly those of you that are working in employment and directly supporting people in accessing competitive integrated employment, is that it's a whole person that you're working with. It's an entire person that has all all different kinds of things about them, and that when you provide confidence or try to support the whole person, then the whole person has a better opportunity of excelling. When we think about employment placement, we probably are thinking about the skills that they have and what they're really good at and what they might be successful at doing, which is very important. But when you also think about what this person likes and their personality and the things that they bring to the table, you probably are going to have a more successful employment match. So that was one of the ways that I wanted to try to drive it home for folks today. We had about 6 minutes left. And I'll let everybody go 1 or 2 minutes early, but I got to get, like, is there any other components that you want to chat about? Jennifer, thank you for sharing.
You're welcome. And while people are thinking about that last comment or question, I did put in the chat that there's a 15-minute break, and then the policy panel starts at 1:15. If anybody was having trouble finding the links, I put those, the agenda links into the chat as well. And just a huge thank you to Kimberly and everyone for being on today.
Yeah, thank you. And I hope that I made your lunch more interesting, folks. Feel free to check out and get to know the Illinois Council on Developmental Disabilities. We have a lot. I feel like we're one of the state government's best kept secrets. We work really hard, but we're teeny tiny in comparison to other state agencies. In comparison to my friend Casey and where he works and how big DHS is compared to like our little teeny tiny agency. But would love for you to get to know us better. You can check out our website. Thank you, Jennifer, again, for including that link. We also have, if you're interested, I'm going to put my email in the chat box. And if you are interested in joining our ICDD listserv, we would love to have you. This is where you can see you would join a listserv that is called ICDD Info. With ICD Info, that's where you're going to get all of the things that we're up to, some of our funding opportunities, but then also important points of advocacy that we'd like to share. So that's in the chat box. And if there's not any other questions, I think that does it for me today.
All right, thank you, Kimberly, and thanks for everyone for joining. I hope everyone's enjoying
everybody
today. Thank you.
Good luck. Thank you. Bye.